Ever wondered if your advertising dollar is really working for you? If your ad would have been here, you and more than 4 million people would be listening to it right now. Contact ads at xzoneradiotv.com.
From haunted houses and shadow people to UFOs, cryptids, strange creatures, and the unexplained mysteries lurking in the darkness, just beyond our understanding. Rob's guest this hour has spent years exploring the strange side of reality, investigating the bizarre, the paranormal, and the things many people experience but few dare to talk about. Joining Rob is author, investigator, and paranormal researcher Jason Offutt of jasonoffutt.com. Through his books, investigations, and first-hand experiences, Jason has examined ghosts, monsters, UFOs, sightings, supernatural encounters, and the hidden mysteries that continue to challenge science and conventional belief. Are we truly alone? Are ghosts echoes of the dead, or something far stranger? And what secrets may still be hiding in the shadows of our world? Tonight, we open the door to the unknown. This is the X Zone Radio Show on the CanCom Broadcast Network, the X Zone Broadcast Network, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, and the affiliates worldwide. And here is the host of the X Zone Radio TV show, Rob McConnell.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome to the X Zone, everyone. As you know, I'm Rob McConnell, and this is truly a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight right here on the CanCom Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Mutual Broadcast Network, your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, and, of course, CanCom Broadcast Network. And, by the way, CFAJ AM not only broadcasts us live on 1220 AM here throughout southern Ontario, but they also, thanks to our good friend Peter Bordley and the members of the CFAJ family, they also stream us at classic1220.ca. As Laura said in the intro, Jason Offutt is my special guest this hour. And Jason, first of all, welcome back. And for listeners meeting you for the very first time, who is Jason Offutt and how did your journey into the paranormal begin?
Well, first, I want to say I loved that intro. It made me sound interesting.
Well, you are.
Who's Jason Offutt? I've been interested in the paranormal for a very, very long time. I saw a ghost in my house when I was about 8 years old, and I wasn't scared, but I was actually. I actually really appreciated seeing this full-bodied apparition. Mm-hmm. It was a little boy, so maybe that's why it didn't scare me. But it made me realize that there were things out there that we didn't have answers for yet. And I've been interviewing people about their encounters for the past 30 years at least.
Can you take me back to that time when you were 8 years old and what that ghostly encounter was like?
Well, I grew up on a farm,
Mm-hmm.
about 6 miles away from from the nearest town, and it was an old farmhouse. I walked out of my bedroom one afternoon, and I walked into the hallway
Mm-hmm.
in front of my on the other side of my bedroom door, and because that's where we kept our books, and I was probably going for the World Book Encyclopedia, the D book, to
Oh
look up
my gosh, I
dinosaurs.
remember those.
Right.
Yeah.
And I practically wore out the dinosaur part. But when I walked into the hallway, there was a little boy standing there, and like I
Mm-hmm.
said, we lived out in the country, and there wasn't another little boy who lived out there anywhere near us. And he was wearing a blue flannel shirt and blue jeans, and he had brown hair parted on the left side, and I could see the bookshelf through him.
Wow.
And we stared at each other. I mean, it seemed like forever, but it could have been
Mm-hmm.
3 seconds, could have been 10. I don't know. But at one point he blinked, and that broke the shock I was in. And I turned around and walked back into my bedroom, shut the door, and I didn't talk to anybody about it for 30 years.
You said that you looked right through him and you could see the bookcase. At that moment, when you realized that you were seeing a ghost, how did you feel?
It, like I said, it wasn't fear.
Mm,
It was more surprise than anything.
right.
Because I knew about ghosts. I'd watched plenty of plenty of movies with ghosts in them, but I never expected to see one. And at that moment, I didn't know if they were real or not. And then I saw one, so yes, I immediately knew they were real. I was more curious than anything.
Mm.
Yeah, I was more curious.
Now, was that your only encounter with not only this ghost or this young gentleman that you saw, or were there other ghostly apparitions that you observed over the years?
Right. It wasn't. That was the only time I experienced it. Experienced that in my house. I
Mm-hmm.
did. Like I said, I didn't talk about it for 30 years. I eventually asked my mom and my sisters if they had ever seen or experienced anything in the house, and they hadn't. Maybe he just showed himself to me because I was I was a little boy too. But right in researching my books, whenever my first one especially, Haunted Missouri, I went to all these purportedly haunted places, and I did encounter some things I didn't quite expect. One of my favorites was in the Limp Mansion in St. Louis, Missouri. It was owned by the Lemp LEMP
Mm-hmm.
family. They were rivals of the Anheuser-Busch people back in the 1800s. They had their own brewery, and there were a lot of deaths in this mansion, a lot of suicides, and one of the suicides specifically was William Limp Jr. He was depressed and gotten divorced, and he was going to kill himself. And he had a dog, a Doberman Pinscher, and he ended up killing it first because he knew nobody
Ooh.
else liked it and nobody would take care of it. So he shot the dog, then he shot himself. And throughout the years, people have seen a dark figure wearing a hat and cloak like William Limp Jr. had, and they would hear a dog in this building. And now the building has been for quite a few years now a bed and breakfast, and people will hear dog, the paws on the nails of the dog clicking on the hardwood floor as it runs through the room, and even if the room's covered by a rug. When I was investigating that, I took a friend of mine who was in St. Louis. He lives in St. Louis, and with his wife, and they came with me to the Limp Mansion, and they stayed downstairs to have a glass of tea while I was up wandering the place. And I ran into a cold spot upstairs where the servants' quarters were. It had not been refurbished or anything. It wasn't used. and it was hot. It was in the summer, and I was sweating buckets. And I walked down a hallway, and all of a sudden, it dropped. The temperature dropped enough to where I stopped sweating, and I got goose pimples on my arm. And I stepped back and started sweating again. Stepped into it. I got cold. I did this 2 or 3 times until whatever was causing it got upset with me and left. But when I went down, the most interesting part is when I went downstairs. My buddy's wife, I asked how they were doing, and my buddy's wife said the weirdest thing happened. She knew nothing about the story of the dog, but she said, I was standing here, she was wearing shorts, and she said, a dog rubbed up against my leg, and I bent down to pet it, and there wasn't a dog there.
That's freaky.
Yeah, a couple of really cool things happened in that building.
I've got about 2 minutes before I have to go for my first break. But tell me, based on all the years that you've been researching ghost hauntings, things that go bump in the night, what is your best explanation of what a ghost is?
Oh my! It's this spirit of the dead here for some reason, whether they're they don't know that they're dead, or that they've got some unfinished business, or maybe they just didn't want to go. But I really think that I don't like the hardcore Christian view that they're demonic entities. I really think that ghosts are nothing to be afraid of. If it is a ghost, it's just somebody who's passed on.
Do you think that the hardcore Christian way of looking at ghosts is because as long as there is that fear associated with ghosts, then there's partial control over the person who believes in the ghost, that if they continue their episodes chasing ghosts, researching ghosts, communicating with ghosts, then they will need absolution, and this is one way that the church maintains the flock under control?
Absolutely, 100% on that. Religion, I think pretty much all religions, I hope I don't offend too many people, but they're based on fear.
Yeah.
We have this peaceful, gracious deity, but don't make him mad because you'll go to hell.
Well, if let me see, if God was to have a $1.6 billion slush fund that people can write to the great attorney general in the sky and present their case, maybe things would change. No?
Maybe, yeah. Leaning that way, talking about that way, I was really surprised that you were playing the anthem at the beginning of the show still.
Well, you know what? I have a lot of respect for a lot of great people in the United States, yourself, and many of our listeners and many of our guests who, to me, will always be friends and allies.
Most Americans love we love Canada, and
it's my way of showing respect.
Oh, I appreciate. Yes, we all appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, you take care, my friend. You and I have to take our first break. We'll be back on the other side as the X Zone continues with my special guest, Jason Offutt. His website, www.jasonoffutt.com. The X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard, Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight. Right here on the CanCom Broadcast Network, and of course, your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM, streaming us at classic1220.ca.
Scattered at his feet, silver like no metal anybody knew, whispers in the darkness said, could it all be true? From the skies above old New Mexico, something crashed where the cold winds blow. Roswell nights still call our name, and the world has never been the same.
Jason Offutt is our guest this hour, Exonation. www.jasonoffutt.com. That's JASONOFFUTT.com. Jason, what is your favorite aspect of the paranormal that you write about and that you enjoy researching?
Well, I mean, ghosts have always, like I said, ghosts have always interested me. I've always been interested in UFOs. I still can't bring myself to call them UAPs, and cryptozoology. Absolutely love monsters.
What is it about monsters that intrigues you? And that, like when you said monsters, I could tell by your voice, like, man, you're in love with these suckers.
Well, yeah, because they're a part of the unknown. That to me is depending on the monster, of course, but there's something to me that is tangible, can be tangible. I mean, you see lights in the skies. I mean, I've seen strange things in the sky, but that's a long way away. I don't know what it is. It could be anything terrestrial. It could be something extraterrestrial.
Exactly,
who knows? But if you run into a monster out in the woods, you know that it's real. And I've interviewed quite a few people who have had Bigfoot encounters. I talked with a young lady in Nebraska who swears she saw a hyena when she was walking out in the country on the railroad tracks. And although these things get explained away by people, it's not enough for me to stop thinking that some of these monsters are actually real and we just haven't found them yet.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever had an encounter of a monstrous type?
I absolutely have not. And the ghost, like I said, didn't bother me. I think if I was walking in the woods in the evening and 8 to 9 foot tall, 800-pound, hairy guy suddenly stepped in my way, I that would bother me a lot.
Geez, for a minute there, I thought you were talking about a girl I used to go out with.
Well, yeah, we must have gone out with the same girl. Because, yeah, monsters are terrifying. If they actually exist, they actually scare me. Well, it's like that Bigfoot, and a lot of people are like, "Well, why don't you? Everybody's got a camera. How come we don't have a good picture of Bigfoot? How come they're all blurry?"
Good question.
If I were out and I encountered a Bigfoot, the very last thing that would cross my mind would be to pull my phone out and take a picture. It takes me long enough to take a picture of one of my kids, by taking out my phone and typing in the password and clicking the icon for the camera. There's no way I'm taking a picture of Bigfoot. I'm getting the heck out of there.
Yeah, but on the other side of the coin, if you're out there specifically looking for Bigfoot, shouldn't your camera be on the ready?
Yes, but honestly, this is my one big gripe about the Patterson-Gimlin film. They were out looking for Bigfoot and found it. If you go out looking for something, you're generally not going to find it. Bigfoot, ghosts, whatever, going looking for the Loch Ness Monster, all of these things, you're generally going to fail because it's an accident to encounter these things.
That's one way of looking at it, and it's a very good way of looking at it because many people that I know, including myself, I've gone on ghost tours. 95% of the group sees a ghost. I don't. We go out on UFO surveillance missions. 95% of the people see something in the sky that they attribute to being a UFO. I'm sorry, I don't. And I'm wondering how much of the person's will and desire to have this encounter actually plays a part in it.
It does a lot. They're seeing what they want to see. Like you said, it's going on a ghost hunt or a Bigfoot hunt. Or a UFO, looking for something. You're expecting to see that. So if you hear, something knock in the woods, oh my gosh, it's a Bigfoot knock. Or if you smell a skunk, oh, it's got to be a Bigfoot. Well, no, it's most probably a skunk. Weird lights in the sky.
Yeah.
You're expecting to see something, so you do see something. However, so I don't trust any of those, those eyewitness accounts. However, if you're just driving home and it's the middle of the night and this big thing walks out in the road in front of you, you're not expecting that at all. I will trust that 100% more than somebody going out on a organized hunt.
I agree with you 100%. I really do. However, I still tend to go back to what you were saying before about people with cameras. To the best of my knowledge, there has never been a photograph taken by law enforcement, forestry department, people who work on the highways. There hasn't been a Bigfoot cadaver found. And now, according to the UFO community, including MUFON, Bigfoot are now part of the UFO phenomenon.
Well, Bigfoot's been part of the UFO phenomenon for decades upon decades.
Ever since Star Wars.
Well, actually, for Return of the Jedi, they shot the Forest Moon of Endor scenes in Washington State, and there had to be security guards around Chewbacca because they were afraid that hunters might shoot him, thinking he's a Bigfoot.
Oh,
yeah.
God.
I did not just make that up either.
Yeah.
I read that recently. I know there are a lot of reasons that Bigfoot might not exist, and you've stated them absolutely, and I can't really argue a lot with them. Bigfoot has been seen in every state, in every province, every territory. I've written so much about Bigfoot. Every single culture on the planet has Bigfoot, ranging from the Yukon all the way to Sri Lanka. They have their own Bigfoot. So does New Zealand. And one of the things that bothers me is, we should have a body. We should have some solid evidence. Mm-hmm. But if all of these cultures that at one point were unconnected, as far as we know,
exactly,
have this same exact story about the same exact creature, there's got to be something to it.
There has to be some basis of fact.
Yes. And it's the same with ghost. It's the same with the gods from the sky, the entities from the sky who came and taught us civilization and agriculture. There's too many stories that are exactly the same that I believe we've been visited in the past. And I think that Bigfoot probably exists. And ghosts, I know they exist because I saw one.
Bingo. There's the key to that sighting. You saw it. You know for a fact what you saw. And I can go along with that 150%. I haven't had the pleasure of seeing a ghost. I've seen an angel, and I've told this story many times on air. So I believe in angels, but I haven't.
Well, I hope it wasn't the big biblical angel, because those things are terrifying.
No, it wasn't. It was a very nice and a very good and positive experience. And in fact, maybe I'll tell it to you guys as soon as we come back from the break that we're coming up to in about 3 minutes. But I'm going to make a psychic prediction here. Coming up this summer, there will be a flood of UFO sightings, a flood of alien abductions, a flood of close encounters. Do you know why?
Try to distract from America's midterm elections in November.
Close, but no cigar.
Okay.
Steven Spielberg's new movie, Disclosure's coming out.
Yes.
So we're going to see the same thing that happened with E.T., the same thing that happened with Close Encounters of a Third Kind. And we're going to see the awareness brought back. And I'm sure that if the FBI were to release all the Epstein files, we'd find a few aliens in there, too. And I'm not talking about the ones from Mexico. That's a whole different show now, isn't it?
A whole different show.
Yeah, let's not go there. How many books have you written all told now, Jason?
Including a couple of biographies, a humorous travel log, a parody book, and 6 novels. I have written 21. My 21st one comes out in September.
So what do you do with your off time, if you get any?
Well, here's the thing with writing that I tell anybody who asks me about my writing routine and how to get something published is keep at it.
Yeah.
I write 2 hours a day, same time, 3 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's it. I'm done. The rest of the day, I work during the day. I cook for my family. I hang out with the family at night. But those are my hours that I spend. And then I teach at a university, so I have summers off and I have a month off in the winter. So I get a lot of research and writing done then.
And still, you find time to come on the show and speak with us, which I appreciate so much.
Well, I love being on the show, Rob. I love talking to you.
Oh, thank you very much, my friend. When we come back from this break, I'd like to talk to you about one of your books. The title has always interested me, Darkness Walks, the Shadow People Among Us.
All right, absolutely.
All right, stand by. Jason Offutt is my very special guest. And Jason, are your books available on Amazon?
Yes, they're all available on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, Books A Million, just anywhere that sells books.
Excellent. And
I just found out that some of my books are in the New York Public Library, so I'm pretty giddy about that.
Wow, I'll have to get you to send me an autographed copy for our library.
Okay.
Jason Offutt is my special guest. JASONOFFUTT.com is his website, and Jason and I will return on the other side of this break as the X Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios of the CanCom Broadcast Network in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, just up the street from your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, and they stream us at classic1220.ca. We'll be back. Don't go away.
July 47 in the desert heat, a rancher found strange wreckage scattered at his feet.
Of dragons and candlelight, 2 dreamers dance through the endless night. Oberon called to the ancient skies. Morning glory saw truth in their eyes. From the forest deep to the ocean foam, they built a world and they made it home, with books of magic and hearts untamed, changing the world in the old God's name. Oh, Oberon, wizard of the silver flame, morning glory calling nature.
Welcome back, everyone. If you would like to get a copy of all the music that we play here on the X Zone, they're all written in-house and produced by us. All you need to do is send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And I believe there are 20 songs on each CD volume that we have, and each volume is $15.95, and that includes shipping, postage, and handling. Jason Offutt is our special guest, www.jasonoffutt.com. Jason, tell me more about Darkness Walks, the Shadow People Among Us.
Well, something else that I noticed in my house when I was a kid. Noticed it to the point to where I was still peeing the bed at 10.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's something exciting to talk about. Uh, One night I was lying. I just went to bed.
Uh-huh.
I was lying in bed and living out in the country that we could leave the the blinds, the shades open because there's nobody there to look. So it was always just a uniform gray in my room when the moon was out. And I mean, I was sitting there and I lay back down and I could see my bookshelf, my personal bookshelf, the Farrah Fawcett poster, the one with the red bathing suit. That's how old I am.
Now you're bringing back memories.
Oh yeah. So I could see that, and all of a sudden there was in the corner. It just was really dark. I noticed, and then a human figure walked out and walked past my bed and into the hallway, and it scared the heck out of me. And I yelled for my dad. He dropped a curse word, turned the light on, walked in, and there was nothing. But I saw one or a line of these for the next 2 or 3 months, and then I never saw one again. They just walked through my room, didn't pay any attention to me whatsoever. And in my head, I called them shadow people because that's what they looked like. They looked like a shadow. And I never talked to anybody about it at all. And then I was listening to Coast to Coast AM back in the 90s, and Art was talking about shadow people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, other people have seen these too? And I started talking about it, and I eventually wrote a newspaper column called From the Shadows, where every week I wrote a paranormal story, and I wrote one on my shadow person encounter, and I got flooded with letters and emails of people who'd encountered the same thing. And I started calling people, and I started interviewing people, and the phenomenon is just, it's worldwide. I talk to people from England and South Africa, Brazil, Australia, China, everywhere. And they had the same or similar stories, and I put the book together.
That house that you grew up in, had anyone who moved into the home after you and your family left, had they had any paranormal experiences?
This is a secondhand thing that when I was talking to my sister and I asked what the people were thinking of the house, and she said they think it's haunted.
Well, that answered that question, yeah. Another book that I'd like to talk to you about is So You Had to Build a Time Machine.
Yes.
Please tell.
Go. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, please tell us.
Oh, I've always been fascinated with time travel, and I usually when I get ideas for books by thinking I want to write a book on this, so I write a book on this, and I wrote a book on time travel, and it was sort of a CERN type collider
right.
that was in Missouri, and it caused all sorts of interdimensional and time distortions, and group of people who didn't know each other, there were 4 of them, started experiencing strange events, and they got sucked into a time vortex, and went lots of fun places. And I just recently posted on social media one of my favorite book reviews ever, and it was on So You Had to Build a Time Machine, and the review is a very strange book that I just couldn't put down.
That's a wonderful review to get.
I love that. But with fiction, you get to explore all sorts of things that you don't get to write about when you're writing nonfiction, unless it actually happened to somebody.
But isn't fiction one way that authors get an idea across to their readers? Because fiction is much easier for the reader to associate with than a novel or a biography.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that that was used by Rod Serling with the Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
He wanted to make a political and social commentary, and he figured that he would be able to do it under the guise of science fiction and horror and fantasy, and absolutely he was able to. And it was the same with Gene Roddenberry. The original Star Trek was such a political and social show about social commentary, but it was under it was under the science fiction banner, so he could get away with anything.
Yeah, President Trump does that too, except they're called executive orders.
Right, and yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, don't get me started. I could waste the rest of the hour.
But you must admit his administration is paranormal.
It is. That's a word I could call it. There are a lot of other words that come to mind that I won't discuss on a family show.
All right, we'll have to do it in a later show. Then you and I could just have some fun. What is? Do you think that we'll ever understand, and do you think that we will ever be able to manipulate time?
Yes, I absolutely do. I mean, physicists have said since Einstein that time travel is possible. It's just we don't have we've got the knowledge. We just don't have the ability yet. Any way that science comes out that comes up with that science that time travel could be possible, it's too big, it's too expensive, it's too outrageous. It could happen, but we can't afford it.
I often wonder if time travel is very simple, that we actually encounter and manipulate time when we dream.
Well, there was an interesting article that I read about a scientist recently who said that dreams might be us having adventures in a parallel universe, which I thought was interesting. I've thought that before, but I'm not a scientist.
Well, I too think that science is on the cusp of whether they realize it or not, thanks to quantum physics and quantum mechanics, that we're going to start understanding and opening up an entire can of worms. For example, one physicist has said you cannot dream of anything you have not seen or experienced.
Okay.
Now that's heavy.
I've never physically been bitten by a vampire before, but I have been in a dream, and I felt it, and I felt myself getting weaker, and then I was a vampire, and I could taste the blood when I bit somebody else.
Now, how do we know that in a previous life or in another dimension or another universe that you were not a vampire?
I know, I very well could be. Yeah. I'm not saying I wasn't or I'm not somewhere else.
Yeah, I'm the kind of guy who has lucid dreams, and I can have a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. And I know by the third dream that I'm involved in one of my lucid dream experiences, and I just have a blast. Because I know no matter what I do, it's a dream.
Yeah, I've only had one lucid dream, and that was the vampire one. I would love to have one where I was able to control things. I think that would be a whole lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah, but I dream a lot of times of alien invasions that I'm fighting off, or zombie apocalypses, and I mean, sure, I've written about both of those things. I've watched movies about both of those things, but I've never experienced them.
That you know of.
That I know of, exactly.
Oh, these are great times we live in, and with everything that is going on in the world today, it's always exciting to get onto the app. Well, I know it is for me. First thing in the morning, I check the news feeds to see what's happened overnight. Because I really believe that one of these days, something out of this world is going to happen that is going to catch each and every one of us off guard. And yet, when we take a deeper look into what it was, it's been staring at us in the face all these years, except it's just never all clicked in. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I feel exactly the same way. I think the same thing. I look at the news every day, and I look for a couple of things specifically, but that's one of them.
Yeah.
What has happened overnight that could change the world, and it's going to be there one day.
Change the world for the better.
Yes, absolutely. There are I don't remember the name of the report that was done back in the 50s or 60s, that if people knew, if society knew that aliens existed, society would collapse, because church would collapse, and people wouldn't do this, and they wouldn't. I don't believe that at all. I think absolutely people would be like, yeah, I get that. What are we going to do next? And I think it would change the world for the better.
You and I have to take our final break. Please stand by, Jason. Great talking to you. And Exo Nation, if you'd like to find out more about Jason, visit his website, www.jasonoffutt.com. And all his books are available on Amazon.com. Just go to Amazon.com and in the search engine, type in his name, Jason Offutt. We'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X-Zone with yours truly, Rob McConnell, from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the CanCom Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, who also stream us on classic1220.ca.
From the forest deep to the ocean floor, they built a world and they made it home, with books of magic and hearts untamed, changing the world in the old God's name.
When the midnight hour's calling and the world has gone to sleep, there's a voice across the darkness, digging mysteries buried deep. From UFOs to hauntings, ancient secrets carved in stone, there's only one place waiting. Welcome to the X-Zone. From coast to coast, we're broadcasting across the USA and Canada too, with truth seekers and believers, bringing hidden stories through. Welcome to the X-Zone, where the strange becomes the real. From ghosts and alien visitors to mysteries we can feel, the biggest names are joining us, sharing secrets still unknown, with Rob McConnell leading you into the X-Zone.
And welcome back. Jason Offutt is our special guest. First of all, Jason, thanks very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us here in the X-Zone. Congratulations on all that you do. And I can hardly wait to talk to you about your new book that is released in September. What's it called?
Chasing the World's Monsters. It is the third book in my Chasing Monster series. Okay. And my second one was Chasing North American Monsters, right. And I had quite a few monsters from Canada, and I've got more in this new one.
Whatever happened to the Mothman?
Well, Mothman still pops up every once in a while. It just depends on where. There was a bridge in Minneapolis that fell. It collapsed, I don't know, 20 years ago possibly. Mm-hmm. And people reported seeing Mothman at that point. There was a fire, I think, in some Ukrainian big hotel. People reported seeing a Mothman type figure there. And for the past 5 or 6 years, there have been 80 or more Mothman sightings in Chicago.
Any reason why so many in Chicago?
Because I've looked, because the thing about Mothman is if there's a big disaster, that's why he shows up. And the only thing I can find in Chicago during that time is the record of the Bears and the White Sox.
Then there should be a Mothman in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, there absolutely should be.
Yeah. In your opinion, why are monsters, UFOs, ghosts, and all things paranormal still such a grabber of the population? Why is the population still so interested after all these years in the things you and I talk about?
Well, it's the unknown. Humans are fascinated by the unknown. It's a challenge. It's a mystery. You know, we like to solve those. We like to. It's the same way we like watching TV shows and reading novels that are murder mysteries. You know, except for they tell us who did it at the end. We haven't found out who did it at the end in all of these. Just sitting here in my office at home, I'm looking at Chariots of the Gods up on my bookshelf.
Oh, Von Däniken, yeah.
From Van Däniken, and I'm looking at Unidentified Flying Objects by Edward J. Ruppelt.
Yeah.
A couple of classic, esoteric books, and we still don't have answers for those. Although Van Däniken, he got a lot of criticism, but he also said a lot of things that made people think. And it was that mystery. There's a lot of questions that we haven't answered yet. And one of the things that frustrate me, and I'm gonna name a name, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yep.
I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. He can take such a complicated topic and brilliantly break it down for anybody to understand. That is a gift.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But the way and I've listened to a number of interviews that he's done on his new book about aliens, and he's missing a couple of important parts, because he's discounting the fact that he's not discounting the fact that there may be extraterrestrials. It's just that they haven't visited us yet, and the ones who have visited us are shaped like us. You know, head, body, two legs, two arms, fingers, toes, two eyes, nostrils. And he discounts that as being extraterrestrial just because they look like us. And I don't quite understand that, because there's something called convergent evolution, where if two species that aren't related evolve in the same environment, they grow to look and act like each other. And that's been proven on Earth over and over and over again. And we're looking for Earth, or for life right now on extrasolar planets that are like Earth. Why wouldn't they grow up like us?
That only makes sense.
I know that's what I think, and I would love to ask him about that at some point.
What's I was going through the list of books that you've written, as I said before, and one of the monsters that once again seems to have faded out from view is the chupacabras.
Right, I've always been a little bit dubious of the chupacabra. I mean, there are a lot of reports of small farm animals. I mean, small, anything from goats down to rabbits and chickens. Of being drained of blood. Okay, I get that. And people have reported seeing a chupacabra, but there are a lot of wildly different descriptions of it. The thing that really sort of rubbed me a little bit wrong about the whole chupacabra, being a thing, in the 1990s, the first chupacabra reports were in Puerto Rico, and a woman saw one, and a couple of people in her neighborhood claimed to have seen it, but its description was exactly like the description of an alien in a movie that had just been released in Puerto Rico, the movie Species, with Natasha, was it Hendricks, maybe? She was a blonde woman who was an alien who came down to Earth to breed with humanity, and she turned into a green monster with claws and spikes up her back. which was the original description of the chupacabra. So it hadn't shown up before that movie was released in Puerto Rico. And every time somebody claims to have found a chupacabra, it's just like a coyote or a dog or a raccoon with mange. So I'm a little bit cool on the chupacabra.
How about lake monsters? Have you done a lot of work on lake monsters?
I have, and some of them I think have a lot of credibility. I'm Loch Ness, man. That's a love of mine since I was a kid. Ogo Pogo is another one. Champ is one. Lake monsters in a body of water that's that big that could keep something. They could hide in it. I'm okay with thinking that lake monsters exist, but there are a lot of lake monster reports from lakes that there's no way a monster could live in that, without it being, on top of the water all the time. And there are also lake monster reports from man-made lakes.
When we look at Loch Ness and the Loch Ness monster, with all the technology that we have today, I find it highly puzzling that it hasn't been found, if it is there.
Right. There are there's still reports every year of people seeing something they can't quite explain on the surface of the loch. The lake itself is huge, and it's extremely deep. The water, there's a lot of peat in the water, so it's hard to see through.
Right.
So I get that. There are some interesting photographs. I think one back in the 60s or 70s that looked like a flipper, which you probably have seen. So I think there's still enough, even though the surgeon's photo from 1934 was a fake. I think there's enough evidence to still go with there might be something there. Is it a plesiosaur? No. I mean, I'm still open to monsters from the dinosaur age still living in the ocean, but it's way too cold in Loch Ness for something like that.
I wonder how many more monsters will be discovered as time goes by. Monsters that we never even dreamed, could exist. In fact, yesterday on MSN News, they had just discovered a new species of fish that had never been discovered or seen before.
Right, I saw that, and there are on average about 18,000 new species discovered every year. Most of them are fish or insects or birds, but every once in a while a big species is found. In 1977, it was the megamouth shark. They're like 18, 20 feet long. That's a big creature. And in the 1980s or 90s, maybe it was the early 2000s, a new species of orangutan was discovered. That's not a small animal either.
No, it's not. And if they can keep elusive all these years, then that just adds credibility to the fact that Bigfoot may still in fact be out there and has been evading man for how many years now? Well, since I don't know.
Since forever. Let's look at this. America. People probably think that humans have lived here for a few tens of thousands of years, but 43% of the United States is uninhabited. That's a lot of free space.
It is. It truly is.
People still visit some of those spaces, be it the desert, be it the mountains, be it the forests, and great swaths of forest in the Pacific Northwest. But that's a lot of room for big creatures to hide in and be able to hide where people can't see them. And then think of Canada and Alaska. think of the huge areas in Russia and China,
Australia,
and Africa, Australia, South America, all these places where people just aren't.
Well, I agree with you 100%, my friend, but as Tal was, whenever you're with us, time goes by so fast. So, Jason, please come back and visit us soon. I still have so many more questions I want to ask you. Continued success on everything you do. My very best to your family, and I look forward to the next time you and I meet back here in the X Zone. So until then, my friend, take care of yourself.
Thank you, Rob. You're a gracious host.
It's all you. Thank you, sir. And X Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about my guest this hour, Jason Offutt, visit his website, jasonoffutt.com. That's JASONOFFUTT.com. Well, that's it for tonight. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. So from everyone here to everyone out there, always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.
Where the strange